the next one should be... Yes, proper amount. Come in. Right, the notes there from teachers. Sit. Alright, lovely. Just to confirm, your name, date of birth. Alright, and then are you aware of what stations have offered you positions? Good, that makes my job easier. Alright. I'm sure you're aware of how most of this process goes, but I am High Curator Mirabelle at your service today. We have taken the blood that we pricked from your hand, placed it on your parchment, and presented it to the dragons. Now, you are interesting. Most of our students graduating university get about, 2 to 3, 4 maximum of dragons willing to accept them as a match. But you got 7. Well, you had 7, and then, as I'm sure you're aware, the entire campus is abuzz. You did have a fellow classmates decide that they would try to, how shall I say, get a leg up on the competition, so to speak, in regards to which dragon they got to pick, and the idiot, they decided to jump into the dragon pens last night at around 3 a.m, and it just so happens that the 7th dragon that had approved your blood scent, let's just say now the caretakers are dealing with a classmate with 1 less limb and a very volatile dragon that now has a taste for human blood. So, you're down to 6 to choose from. Technically not choose from, you're down to 6 for us to choose from. For you. Alright, it's been a day. So, let's just get on with it, shall we? Yes, the 6th are currently right there in front of you. We do have little medallions, so to speak, for you to wear as a brooch or necklace or whatever you select on your clothing, so as to represent to others your dragon match. Mine, as you can see, is the golden snout. Yes, that golden snout. You seem surprised, but as High Curator, it's really not a shock that someone who's so well versed in dragons and what they require would be the match to the largest of them all. Yeah, she's quite docile when she wants to be, but mostly she just prefers lazing about in the sunshine. I mean, who wouldn't prefer that? Alright, let's get on with it then. Now we will be going through a vigorous questionnaire, about 20 questions, and that should help me narrow down which of the dragons I feel you would be best paired with. What? I'm so sorry you think that 20 questions isn't enough. I wrote these myself, dear. Believe me, it's enough. Anyway. Now, as we go through this, try not to think too hard about your answers. Try just to give them as quickly and as naturally as you possibly can. and we'll be off. Now, what would you say your greatest strength is? Alright, now that you've given me whatever you think I want to hear that'll give you the best dragon, what do you actually think your greatest strength is? The one that you don't typically tell people because it either makes you sound overly confident or too weak. That's more like it, thank you. On a scale of 1 to 10, what would you rank your self-awareness? Interesting. No, your professors seem to have a pretty high view of you, and I mean, to be approved to work with either the Rangers or the Enforcers does indicate a certain type of personality, so it's an interesting number. Alright, you're overpowered and outnumbered. What does your first instinct go? I see. And now that you've had longer than 30 seconds to think about it, what's your second instinct? Hot or cold? Don't think, just answer. Hot or cold? Thank you. Have you ever cared for a human toddler? No, I don't need details. I can tell quite a bit about you and the experience just based on facial expression alone. Well, I mean, we had you care for horses as a part of your training, but human toddlers are something else entirely. As I'm sure you're aware, these are dragons you'll be paired with. We have worms and wyverns, but they don't really lend themselves to the sort of thing like riding that you'll be doing as either a ranger or an enforcer. And they're more for educational purposes as far as the rehabilitation goes that we try to do. I'm sure you've been given all of the details about rehabilitation and conservation efforts that we do. We don't just go grab the eggs from everywhere. We're actually trying to save the species. But anyway, all that's to say, I think the worms are probably the closest to a human toddler. No, I'm going to stick with that. I do think the worms are closest to a human toddler. And if you've cared for a human toddler successfully, it bodes well. Alright. Which death sounds the least desirable to you? Incineration, falling, or drowning? Indeed. Alright. Think fast. Chardonnay or Cabernet? Good choice. No, the wine has less to do with the dragons themselves and more to do with how well you truly know yourself, how well fleshed out of a person you are. If you can answer quickly, then I know that you have opinions and can stick to them, which tells me quite a bit about your personality, which helps me pay with a dragon. Alright, do you view yourself as more stoic or more boisterous? Do you prefer that, or would you rather the other? I see. Which trait do you admire more? Strength or cunning? You hesitated. Curious. Day or night? Which state makes you crankier? Hungry or tired? Indeed. What emotion do you feel the strongest? And before you say anger, please remember that anger is a bodyguard. I want to know which emotion you truly feel the strongest. Should have rated yourself a little bit higher on that knowing oneself scale. Alright. You can take a moment to think about this one. What trait would you most prefer others associate with you? Do you want to be known... do you want to be known as cunning, smart, which is different than cunning, strong, powerful, brave? Beautiful, some could say. Playful. Stubborn. The list goes on. I could see that. Plants or minerals? Alright. Which universal sensory experience do you most prefer? Food or music? And we're not talking about what it is to be full. We're talking about what it is to experience each of these things. The smells, the tastes, the emotions, the sounds. So, food or music? Right. Now I'm narrowing it down in my mind as you answer. There's a few that are going to be removed, certainly. Alright. Alright, just a few more. What character trait or flaw, depending on how you look at it, do you most despise in others? That was quick. What was that? No, I'm in the middle. Just trying to break out of the pen now. No, tell the caretakers to stay away. Send my dragon in. She'll put him in his place. Thank you. Yes, occasionally, while mine does prefer to laze about in the flowers, as her size does mean she's more of a dominating sort. When we have issues with the others, in today's case, the one who suddenly tasted human blood, mine gets to go in and assert dominance, so to speak. If you hear any roaring, ignore it. Alright, sweet or savory? Alright, is there a dragon breed you absolutely do not want, and if so, why? Interesting. Alright. No, I can... Based on how you've answered the other questions, I could see that. What? Yes, of course there's going to be bloodshed. She'll be fine. She can handle herself. Of course she would. Alright. You know, the smoked salmon that they have in the mess hall? Bribe her with one of those. They're her favourite treats. Yes, that should work. And now just toss it in. Most of the others don't like it that much, but she loves it for some reason. I think it's because it's the salmon and the stream. My favourite flower for you. She takes nibbles. Alright, thank you. Don't snicker. This is the kind of thing you'll be dealing with one of these days when you have your own. Yes, knowing everything down to their favourite treat is quite helpful, necessary, mandatory at times too, to save your own life. Depending on the breed you get, that is. Alright, last question. Did you come in here today hoping to be paired with a specific dragon breed? Thank you for your honesty. And why is that? Right. I think that gives me everything I need. Tuck this away for now. Do you know the dragon breeds that are placed before you? What's that? Oh, yes, the ring. You'll be receiving one of these. You can design it however you wish. Once you are paired with one of these, we'll find a scale that has shed off. We do not forcibly remove them. And we'll put it into a piece of jewelry for you to wear for as long as your dragon is matched to you. That way you maintain some of their scent on you so other dragons know who you belong to, and your dragon remembers that you're a friend. Anyway, as I was saying, are you aware of the dragon breeds in front of you today? Right, well, we have the Crimson Crowned, Aether Wing, Iron Crag, Cobalt Coil, Aurelian Shadow, and Mist Wraith. All of these dragons, like I said, smelled your blood and didn't seem to froth at the mouth, so that's always a good sign. However, based on your answers today, the Cobalt Coil It's a small breed, and I think she's a little too playful, bubbly for you. No, don't get me wrong, she's a delightful breed, but not yours. Not for you. We'll set her aside. The Iron Crag. The Iron Crag really needs someone who is mostly brute force. Someone who takes themselves extremely seriously and is a little unflinching, uncompromising in their stoicism. Your personality seems to be, how shall I say, a bit better balanced than some of our other students. At least one that's going to be, in your line of work anyway. Could work. It could work, but I just don't think. I think they're better matches for you. The Aurelian Shadow. The Aurelian Shadow has the nickname Golden Death for a reason. One of the larger breeds, second only to my golden snout. The golds tend to be the larger of the species. It's extremely volatile, very emotional, and very, very quick to flame first, ask questions later, so to say. I think you'd have a hard time reining in the emotions of the Aurelian Shadow, or at least matching its intensity. You need one that's a bit... In order to be well matched, you need a dragon that is a little more heady than it is just feeling. Instinct is extremely important to this one, and while I do think you might have good instincts, you do tend to take a little bit longer to think about things. Not a bad trait, but you like to ask questions fast. Golden Death does not. Now, last three. Mist Wraith, Crimson Crowned, and Aetherwing. Think fast, ground or air. Right, thank you. Aetherwing is a well-balanced temperament of a dragon. Again, a smaller breed, but they tend to have their head in the sky, so to speak. And they're best paired with a rider who is a dreamer, has their head in the clouds, knows no limits. You do seem a more grounded individual than that. I do have a student in mind that I think could be a good pairing for the Aetherwing, so that's a bit of a relief, honestly. Yes, that classmate. You might be good at this yourself. Maybe I'll train you as the next curator. Mist Wraith or Crimson Crown? You were already a bit elusive to me. We've not had that many dragons approve of a rider's blood in quite some time. Do you have one you're leaning towards? It's probably wise. Give me one moment. Do you know much about either of these breeds? So the basics. While we try to teach you about dragons at university, it is imperative that we don't go too in depth on all the details of each individual breed, so as to avoid situations like what happened with your fellow student this morning when you get a favorite and you've got your heart set on it. I'll give you one guess as to which breed your classmate wanted. Yes, the Cerulean Shadow. Well, there were two, dear. Yes, it's not often that we get two of the same, but they're siblings. Found them in the same nest with cracked eggs. No, their mother abandoned them. Poachers and all came along, cracked the eggs, hoping to... Well, if you crack an egg, sometimes if the dragon is far enough along, you can take it out and then harvest from it, and it's much easier than harvesting parts from a full dragon, but they were a little too far along, close to hatching, and the poachers got a face full of fire, and the mother unfortunately smelled them and didn't want the pups, so anyway. Right. The Crimson Crowned. Species is size large. Appearance, bat-like wings with golden veins. There is a half circle of horns or spikes, depending on how you want to look at it, tipped with red atop the head. It does have a longer tail than most dragons, also tipped with spines or spikes that run the length. It's a very formidable beast. The coloration varies in golds, reds, and black hues. Usually, though, the wings are mostly golden. Temperament tends towards more aggressive, but extremely demanding of respect. This is not a dragon that you will form a friendship with, as you will with some. As we went over in classes, some of the dragons will stay with their human until the human passes away. Dragons will outlive us by quite a bit. And some of them, when they sense their human companion getting old, they get fidgety and fly off into the sunset, since they are longing for adventure that their human can no longer give to them, which, either way, is ideal for us. Like I was saying, the goal is rehabilitation and conservation, so as long as they don't cause any issues as they try to reacclimate to dragon society out in the wild, it's perfect. They're around humans long enough to understand our ways, not eat us, and hopefully they're healed up enough from whatever malady or whatever have you brought them to us in the first place. The Crimson Crowned will leave sooner than others. You'll maybe get to your 40s, 50s before he or she flies off into the night. Defenses and attacks for the Crimson Crown. It uses the crown of horns to gouge those that it's attacking. We think that's why the horns are naturally tipped with red, but most of the time there is a bit of blood that's smattered throughout that. The tail is used to whip, and then their blood is hot enough with, best we can tell, there's some sort of acid or bile. Something is in the blood to make it act like, the closest thing we have to describe it is molten lava on contact. So that helps whatever wounds it receives cauterize quickly and hurts its attackers, but sometimes potentially its rider. This dragon is all heart, a little bit of head. You need to be grounded enough to understand that it demands respect. It's an honor-bound dragon. You can never, ever let your guard down around it. Like I was saying, you will not form a friendship, but you can at least form a mutual bond of respect and understanding for a time. Now, with that aside, the Mistwraith. This is a small to medium dragon. I believe the one we currently have is closer to medium. Appearance, it has lightweight, delicate wings that have a translucent quality to them. It has a sleek, streamlined body, and the horns curve ever so gently over the top of the head and back out, almost acting as kind of protection for the skull. Medium length tail, devoid of any spines, and it's one of the few dragons that can use its tail in a prehensile manner. It will hang from trees like a bat if it chooses to, it will grab things, pull them in to inspect them, so on and so forth. The coloration varies in deep purples, blacks, greys, and silvers. The body does tend to be mostly the darker hues, though. It's meant to help it blend in with shadows and mist. The temperament. It's docile to skittish, much unlike the Crimson Crown. It is extremely, extremely inquisitive. Naturally very untrusting, but if you can gain its trust, unlike the Crimson Crown, you will have a friend for life in this one. They will stick around until the end of your days. Defenses and attacks. Well, it's mostly defenses. The Mistwraith doesn't have much in the way of attacks, aside from the standard gnashing of teeth and claws, but it has camouflaging scales that can shift back and forth between colors. And its breath is, as its name dictates, a mist breath. So it'll shroud itself in fog if it feels truly threatened. It's mostly a stealth sort of dragon, but it still has an element of playfulness to it. This dragon is for the cunning, for those that want to know about the world around them, but don't take themselves entirely too seriously while they're doing it. Essentially, what you're looking at here is either leading with your head or leading with your heart? If you lead with your head, with a dash of heart and playfulness, the Mist Wraith would be a good opportunity for you. If you lead with your heart, with a little bit of head, the Crimson Crown could be a good opportunity. All volatile, passionate emotions, but with a dash of thinking before spewing fire, and all thought, cunning, stealth, with a dash of, well, curiosity. They're both excellent breeds, but very, very different. I think we should take you down to their pens and let you get to know them. What do you say? All right. Let me, let me just gather my things and we'll go down that way. I should probably check in on my dragon's progress anyway. This way. Follow me.